Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I think we're all familiar with the notion of Clark Kent and Superman. Same person, right? Clark Kent, mild-mannered Clark Kent, and then he kind of morphs into or changes into Superman at the snap of a finger, jumping into a phone booth, and that's
taking off a pair of glasses.
Yeah, and that's really fun for entertainment, but I don't know that that's good practice for developing professional relationships. We need to be who we are. We need to be authentic. We need to just kind of follow that, time and time again. I tell people I am what I am, right? I mean, it's my wife sometimes will tell me, "Oh, you can't say that. You can't say that." It's like, you know what? This is who I am. I can't be somebody here and there. It's my life's all melded together. Anyhow, if you haven't figured it out, I've got a guest here today. Excited about this. Rob Wentz his radio DJ name was Rob Z, and he's a leadership communication coach, and he teaches and trains, develops individuals and organizations to become more exceptional communicators, and helps leaders get unstuck. He helps business owners grow by enhancing the way they lead their teams, make decisions, solve problems, and equips them for skills for lasting success. And one of the things he talks on is being authentic and why that's really your best play. Don't be Clark Kent and Superman, and how to do it without sounding cliche. So, Rob, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. And, I thought of a couple of things as you were saying that right there, because you mentioned me being a radio DJ, right?
Yeah.
And throughout the years, I've 20 years in radio broadcasting, did all the things you could do in radio. And my big aha moment was when I realized that I was being Clark Kent and Superman in the sense of I felt like I had to be somebody else as my radio personality. It's like I had to be a different person, put on the radio voice and act different, right?
Yeah.
And I think we see in our culture now with social media and the YouTube and all of the content that's out there, the people that you connect with the best are the people who are the same all the time. You get who you get. That authenticity is everything. And that didn't used to be the case in broadcasting. So I had a warped mentality, a warped thought process that I had to be somebody else in order to be liked, or in order to get attention, in order to be able to be a business person even, right? It's like my personal me, professional me would have to be two different people. It's like a broken mindset. And some of the I would say the best broadcasters, and I think about this in a pro wrestling sense. I've heard this before in professional wrestling. Like the best characters would take their own personality but turn them up to 10. Right? So it's like it's still me, but I turn myself up, because you wouldn't necessarily get this version of you and I talking right now at end of the night and I'm relaxing. You're not going to get exactly this version of me, but it is me. But whenever I'm quote unquote performing, you turn it up a little bit.
That's a great point. Hulk Hogan comes to mind. He was just a big booming figure, and that's who he was in the ring, and even when he was out talking with other people. But as you were talking, I just thought of a conversation I just had not 10 minutes ago. I had to cut it short because I had to get on with you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're important. We're recording. This will probably come out in December. We're recording September on the heels of the whole Charlie Kirk thing, and this particular person was posting a lot of things, very political stuff. And it doesn't, just I can see where the discomfort would be for people. But the conversation I had with him was something totally different. right? It was totally, this guy is just a great guy, right? But when you
Hmm.
read the social media, it's like, okay, this is, so I, in,
Yeah.
when my assistant came in and said, hey, so and so's on the phone, I don't want to rat him out. I tensed up because it's like, I don't know what I'm going to get. Right. And
Mm.
so that's the whole notion of, when you have this Clark Kent and this Superman persona, it's like people don't know, they don't know what they can trust, right? What am I getting today? Am I getting Clark Kent or am I getting Superman?
Yeah.
And those are both pretty benign or positive figures, really. But that's not for
But
everybody.
Clark Kent was just some, like you said, mild-mannered news reporter. Superman could spin the world backwards, like in the sense of that's still the same person, but he was stepping into his unique giftings at times and
Yeah.
using them to their maximum potential. And I think Charlie Kirk's a great example of that too, because I didn't know Charlie Kirk, but I would have to imagine that Charlie Kirk on stage, he turned up that personality. That wouldn't be, and I did hear him in an interview. He said he would, when he was heading home to be with his family, he would text his wife and say, "Make sure everything is boring." He didn't want anything lavish,
Yeah.
any surprises. He just wanted to go home and chill. But he was still him
Yeah.
behind the scenes as he was on stage. But turning that up is something that is a skill. I think of my dad. It's funny. My dad, his name is Bob Wentz. I'm Rob Wentz. We're both Robert Wentz. And I used to say when my dad was in business mode, he would be in Bob Wentz mode. Like he would get in like business Bob. We would call him business Bob. He would kind
Right.
of change the inflection of his voice. He'd get more serious. And I don't think he had an awareness of that, right? It wasn't an awareness of like he kind of like would shift his personality. And that was another part of his personality. But at times it was like, hey, where's the other Bob at? And
Yeah.
I know for me, I do that too. It's like you have I have to develop this awareness, and I really do think that comes from having good people around you who help you to see when you're kind of you're acting differently, you're being differently, and not that that can be, how do you say this? Because I don't think that's always necessarily a bad thing, but having, because sometimes you do need to act differently to, in certain situations to be effective, but you can't lose yourself. One of the things I always talk about is being pliable. Good leather is really pliable. It bends, but it doesn't break. And I think a lot of times, especially if you're a people pleaser, that can be a situation where you will bend yourself so much that you break and you lose yourself.
Mm.
And it's really important for us to understand our authentic selves. And I feel like that is such a cliche thing to say. I even feel cringy saying it because we hear it
Hmm.
so much. It's become such like a, it's just something people say, I feel like. But there's really, there's so much value in truly knowing yourself. It's really hard to know yourself fully. And that's why you need people in your life who help you to have these things pointed out so you can work on those aspects of you that what did um it was called the shadow self. Carl Jung called it your shadow self. These things about you that you can't see, but other people can.
Mm. Interesting. Well, before we hit record, I was talking about somebody I worked with, and they were, in the office. I was in public accounting. You spent a lot of time with people. In the office, they were just totally buttoned down.
Hmm.
King's English, right? I mean, he's just talking big words, all this stuff. And then you go out for a drink, ride down the elevator, and they would kind of morph into, I guess, their Superman character, which was F bombs, this and that. And it's just, for me, that would stress me out because you
Yeah,
never know who you're going to run into, right? You
yeah,
never know when somebody's going to turn out to be a client or connected with a client, or, the wife of of your boss, or people you don't know. You just don't know. And so, for me it was like, okay, I'm, rather than being this high and this low, or these polar opposites, I was more comfortable kind of just being that person in between. And like your father, yeah, you do have a little bit of a Superman outfit that you put on in business situations, but I'm still, I I still will use self-deprecating humor, or something like that. It's just who I
yeah,
am. Um, but I know that there are situations where I won't do it as often.
yeah. As you mentioned that, it's really interesting. I had a friend years ago. He was a drug and alcohol counselor. Whenever
Yeah.
he wasn't being the drug and alcohol counselor, he was the guy who needed the drug and alcohol counselor.
Okay.
Yeah, he would become the very thing that he was trying to help during the day, and it was like shocking. It would be shocking, like, and you could see it in his face, you could see it in his eyes, like, oh, we're getting a different version of this guy right now, which
Yeah.
was very entertaining in the moments. But then I would think, like, man, there's some sort of major disconnect here
Yeah.
he's experiencing, and I think, um, for myself, I'm just going to speak personally because I had written a chapter on this for an anthology book that I was in. It was called "The Bold Art of Being Yourself," because when I was young, there was like the best way I could describe it was there was a version of me inside of me that I didn't know how to get out. And so it made me like inauthentic because I didn't know. It's not like I wanted to be myself. I didn't know how to. And so
Mm.
over the years, I've had to learn how to be myself. And the more I'm myself, the more successful I am, the better people I have in my life, the more satisfied I am. Everything starts to everything starts to line up. And I feel, I guess the best word to use is congruent with like who I know I'm supposed to be. I would say that's like integrity, right? Doing the things you say you're supposed to do, and being the person you know you were created to be. It's not an At least for me, it has not been an easy thing to do. I've had to really work at it, but I can feel it when I'm doing it, and it feels like, man, that's the sweet spot. That is like exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm most comfortable when I'm just being who I am.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just because putting on an act is hard. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
people who act for a living. I mean, that's a craft, and they work at it, and I'm sure it's hard.
Because then I often wonder that with actors, that who are you then? How you probably,
Yeah.
if you have to pretend to be somebody on a set for months at a time, you have to lose yourself at some point, I would think,
Yeah.
in that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I dated a woman who was into acting, and I just never knew what I was getting. You know what I mean? I just never knew. It was just like, okay, are these real tears? Are you really upset, or is this something you're just
Yeah.
kind of playing?
Yeah.
Um, and you never knew. But I
I
think
would think the same thing.
yeah, but that underscores my other point is like networking's all about getting people to know us, like us, and trust us. The trust being the big word there. And if you've got these two personas, whatever those two are, if they're too wildly divergent, it 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 really destroys the trust because you don't know what you're going to get. Right? Am I getting this button down person, or am I getting the guy who's going to speak in f bombs? I
Yeah.
don't know. So I don't want to refer them.
And there's a I forget where I heard this before, but it was saying that of all the things we unconsciously pick up, one the top thing we unconsciously pick up is authenticity, where you might feel something's off with somebody, you don't know why. Like, you feel a certain way about something, right? And you're like, I don't know what it is. And basically what they were saying is when we will unknowingly pick up on inauthentic situations or inauthentic people, or when somebody's being inauthentic, and we can't quite put our finger on it, but it's like something's not quite right here, and that will like it'll sit strange with you. And so I think about that a lot with people in my life. Now, if you are inauthentic, then you are going to read authentic people wrong. That's another side of
Oh,
it. If you're
interesting.
if you are inauthentic within yourself, you're going to get around people who are authentic, and you're going to feel very uncomfortable around them because that's not something that you're used to. And that, just follow me on this because this makes sense in my head. I don't know if I can say it quite right, but if you are living inauthentically and you're around somebody who is authentic, it's going to highlight something within you of like, there's something wrong here, and you're going to want to not be around those people, right?
Mm,
And vice versa. If you're authentic and you're around an inauthentic person, you're like, there's like a repelling magnetism there. You're like, I don't know, I
yeah,
just don't feel comfortable with that person.
yeah.
So and
I, I,
it's
I
yeah,
kind
you
of get
can
what you're
feel it.
saying. If I'm being inauthentic and I'm talking to you, I'm I'm not going to assume, but it raises the awareness that okay, Rob Z can also be inauthentic. I don't know what I'm getting. I'm not giving
Yeah.
him what I am, and so I
Yes.
might not be getting the same back.
You're always questioning that in people. Yeah,
Right.
you're always like reading people incorrectly,
Yeah.
and it's like it bleeds into everything in your life. A great example, I had one podcast guest who was on my show, and man, he was like super abrasive, just like he was like saying all the right things, but saying them in very weird ways. And during the podcast, I was like, it was the only podcast I had where I'm like, I got to get off this call.
Mm.
I have to get off this podcast. I feel so weird about it. So I
You were
connected him.
interviewing. You were interviewing him.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Did you end up releasing it? I guess would be my question.
Oh yeah, I do them all
Okay.
live, so they're
Okay.
out. That
Oh,
once
okay.
they're done, they're
Yeah.
done. And I like to make referrals. So I referred him to my one friend who's very perceptive of like reading people, and just to see. I didn't tell this guy anything. I
Yeah.
just referred it to him so they would connect. And he sent me a message afterwards, and he's like, Rob, who was that guy that you sent me? I've never met anybody who's. He worded that like his ego was so out of control.
Yeah.
And it gave me this feedback of like, all right, I wasn't off, because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And like, maybe I was off that day. Maybe I was just like in a place where this guy was rubbing me the wrong way because of the mood that I was in. But that feedback that I got was like, oh yeah, this guy, there was something very inauthentic. Even though he was saying all the right things,
Yeah.
something felt really off about it. So that's another great part of that too, is when you are a certain way, you bring people into your life on the level where you're at. And so you can use those people kind of as a buffer, which I love to be able to do, because you're, if you've, the sum total of your five closest people, whatever. And I think that's very true. And then you can kind of use them as a gauge for other people in your life to get a good read. Because I really like to try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes you got to trust your gut and how you're feeling about things.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you have a good spidey sense? Where all these superheroes we're talking about. um,
I'd like to think I do. I would like to think that I do, but then again, who knows? I might.
yeah.
I would say, judging by the people I have in my life, I would say I do have a good spidey sense. But I have been in the past certainly a people pleaser and can fall back into that, and so I can let people. I don't know how to word it exactly, but I know that if certain kind of moods that I'm in, if I'm confronted in certain ways, if somebody's very pushy, I tend to like, I'll bend to them
Hmm.
because of their pushiness. And
Right.
so I recognize that like it can be hard for me to get out of those situations because this person's personality is so overwhelming that I don't know what to do with it. And
Yeah.
I've learned over time how to manage that better, but I definitely know that can be like a weak point for me.
It's interesting. I had a call last week before, I can't remember. Um, I'm part of a charitable group, and this guy wanted to come on into the charitable group, and I just want to help charities. I just want to help charities, and my my sense is where this guy just wants to sell. He just wants to sell, and I kind of called him on it. I just said, I mean, I wasn't being accusatory, but I just said, this is what doesn't work in this group, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't, they're not coming into this, for you to sell to them. And, oh, no, no, that's not me. I just really want to help. I just really want to help. And I couldn't shake the feeling that that was not true. And
Hmm.
he's, I'm not too worried about it because all these people are grown-ups and they can say no. And, hey, this guy's a jerk. And, sh- you know, and I can be wrong. So it's like, I'm not going to pass judgment on this person. I might be having a bad day. I might totally read this guy wrong. So it got him into one of the monthly meetings, gathering Zoom meetings, and sure enough, he didn't sell, but when he realized there wasn't going to be an opportunity to, he was gone.
Well, that's the thing too, right? Those people will,
Yeah,
they'll show their cards, right?
quickly. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a
They
good
don't.
thing. I mean, that's the benefit of having truly authentic people in your life, is it will repel those people. Well, if they're like in a group of people where there's a lot of authenticity going on, that person just feels like they got to get the heck out of there because they're not going
Yeah.
to be able to pull anything over on anybody else. And I'd like to think that people who do that, I would like to think that they don't realize they're doing it. This is the benefit of the doubt in me. It's like I like
Yeah.
to think that this is just a character flaw. They don't know they're doing it, but I think some people truly do, and they are trying to manipulate others. But there's also the case where this person just might have some sort of personality disorder that they have not worked through yet, and they don't even know they're doing the thing. It's like manipulators. 'Cause I'm sure you've had manipulators in your life,
Oh yeah.
and I know for a fact some of them that were in my life in the past, they didn't mean to do what they were doing. It was a side effect of a personality flaw.
Yeah. Well, and
And
some
unless
people,
they work through that, I mean, and it's like, okay, that that doesn't mean I have to spend time with that person. And that's the other important part of that too. Just because you know there might be something wrong, I don't have to like submit and commit myself to dealing with this person all the time. I can get away from them, but you hope that they figure that out.
well, and some are coachable. You work with people. Some you can, some have that epiphany because
Yeah.
somebody has taught them or somebody has modeled that behavior for them. Some people, their first jobs, they're in highly cutthroat sorts of businesses, and that's what they know.
Yes.
And some of those people I run into, and they're just, essentially alluding to or insinuating I'm a loser, right? This is the way to do it, man. You're a sucker.
Yeah.
Coffee's for closers kind of mentality. Um, and I just think they burn out eventually. But there are, occasionally you run into somebody like, oh, I didn't realize. I
Hmm.
didn't realize how I was coming across. And for me, that's always really exciting because you can have a huge impact on somebody.
Oh man, the growth there. I honestly, you saying that just gave me goosebumps because like I've had that happen to me where I've had those things highlighted to me. I've had them highlighted to me when I wasn't ready for it, and that wasn't fun. But I've
Yeah.
had them highlighted to me when I was ready for it, and it's like, wow, somebody actually saw me. Somebody saw
Yeah.
it, and I'm ready to change it, right? And
Yeah.
when you see somebody change, because I think that's really important too. Going back to the beginning of this, people are allowed to change, and I think that sometimes it's the fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And if we have a fixed mindset about people, they can be changing and we don't buy it and we can
Yeah.
actually hinder them from changing. I remember when I was young, my one of my first jobs in radio, I was 15 years old, right? I was just a kid. And I stayed at that job for a quite amount of time. And towards the end, they were still, even though I had grown, I knew personally I'd grown by leaps and bounds. I was, a program director. So I was running a radio station. I was a music director. I was a morning show host. I was doing a lot of, I'd really come up through the ranks, but they still treated me like I was 15. They didn't
Mm.
see this new version of me. They saw who I used to be. And that was actually holding me back. That them seeing me like that was holding me back from growing more. I didn't realize that at the time. After I'd left years later, I looked back and I was like, oh man, if I would have left there sooner, I probably would have grown even more
Yeah.
faster. So it's recognizing, and people don't mean to do it. That's not their fault that they did that, but that is also the awareness of a growth mindset means you're looking for growth in people. You're growing yourself. That's the big piece to it. If you're not growing yourself, then you can't see growth in other people because it highlights your lack of growth, which challenges you and makes you not want things to change. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, I think there's something to that we tend to see in others who we are, right? So
Yes.
if you're a generous person, you're going to look at somebody and you're going to look for the moments of generosity.
Yeah.
If you're courageous, you're going to look for those sorts of things. So when it comes, if you're authentic, you're going to look for that. You're going to, and if you're inauthentic, then you're going to be skeptical and look for those sorts of things too. Well, I say those things and I don't really mean them, so they don't mean them. Um,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And
so,
that's I literally right before we came here, I was on a coaching session with one of the guys I'm working with, and he builds cabinets. Awesome
mhm,
dude. I love this guy. He builds these custom cabinets and they're beautiful. These Mennonites in our area, I'm in central Pennsylvania, a lot of Mennonites and Amish.
right.
And the Mennonites wanted to partner with him because they need somebody to help build more cabinets because their company is getting bigger and bigger. And the client that I'm working with, he said to me, he's like, these guys like they took the time to drive an hour to my shop to help me because he's helping, they're teaching him how to build the cabinets their way so that he can do their model. They came here for an hour. They drove an hour. They spent the entire day with me for 2 days straight. And they're like helping me out and all this stuff. And he's like, I don't know if they're trying to like get one over on me or not. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, man, these guys, number one, Mennonites, Amish, some of the most trustworthy people you could ever
Yeah.
meet. If you've ever met them, they're pretty darn honest. It's almost always a family business. They do remarkable work. Their work is always top notch. And so I was like, maybe this is just a theme. If this is a theme for you, and we kind of got into like, is that a theme for him not being able to trust people? And he's like, well, yeah, that is something that I have a hard time believing people for saying who they are. And I thought, I could see he something kind of clicked there. I hope over the next, weeks and months that clicks more and more, that he starts to see that in himself, that he can trust people. Because when you don't, when you look for those things in people, you're going to find them everywhere you go. And especially in life, if you haven't had truly authentic people in your life, then you think people are trying to get one over on you. And
Yeah.
so my prayer for him is like, man, he can start to see that and trust people until they give you a reason not to trust them, right? You can see signs that will point out, oh, that wasn't trustworthy. But if they're trustworthy and it's going well, then believe they are who they say they are. That's a valuable lesson.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I've always been of the mind that I will allow somebody to uh, uh, allow people to cheat me once, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You can cheat me once, that's fine. It's generally not going to be anything big. I'm not putting my house up or anything like that. And usually people reveal themselves early on, so whatever you're out is not a big thing.
Hmm.
And then you get one shot at me. You can cheat me once, and then you're done. So you better make it good. So
Yeah. But they should delay that, really milk that cheating you for
yeah,
a while to get the
well,
most out of
yeah,
it.
that's very manipulative. But I don't think people who are of that mind, unless they're really playing the long game,
Yeah.
it's not going to work.
Yeah,
So
I truly, and I believe this. I don't know why, whatever, other people would disagree with me, but I don't think people mean to do it. These are character flaws they have not worked through yet. Now, if they've been presented the character flaw and they still decide to ignore it multiple times, then it becomes a real issue. But I don't think people mean to be the way that they are when they're being inauthentic. They just have had bad models throughout their life.
yeah. Yeah. Let's shift gears here. Rob, let's talk about your business. Types of things you do. You have a podcast. It's
Mhm.
kind of alluded to, a live show. Types of things you do, types of people you're looking for, how people can get a hold of you, refer you.
Yeah, as far as the podcast goes, it's the unstuck movement, right? So it's stories of how people have found major breakthrough in their lives, personally and professionally. We've all been stuck somewhere, and I love those stories because those are the moments of breakthrough that we need to have. We need to have breakthroughs in our lives on a continuous basis. And so for me, it's just inspiring to hear those stories of people who have found those next levels, those next years, who maybe have been, they've been inauthentic and they've found a way to reform that in their life. I just find that incredible. And so that blends right into my coaching. So I do business coaching, focusing mostly on leadership and communication. One of the big things that I love talking about are having important conversations, because in this is all personal, everything professional goes back to personal. In our life, there are situations where we know we have to speak up, we know we have to say something. And the more lag time we have between the event happening and having the conversation, that creates all of the gossip, that creates all of the assuming, right? We create villains out of people, we become victims, we become helpless in those situations, right? So how do we break down that lag time between when something happens and how to address the situation? And that can apply to a million different things. That can also apply to you and your own stories, your own communication with yourself. And I use that kind of as the framework for getting in the door with a lot of businesses, because that's usually the issues that are happening. They're not having these important. There's a great book on it also called Crucial Conversations. You ever read
Yeah.
that book? A great
Great.
book.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, because those are, I would say, Crucial Conversations, and also the book Leadership and Self Deception. Those two books are really, really good and kind of are a framework for that. But then I love, in the beginning, working with businesses, it's figuring out vision, mission, values, we've heard these goals, we've heard these things a million times. But it's so important, so essential to get those things clear, get them right. And the reason most people don't is because it can be really difficult to do it, especially if you've already had a business for a year, 10 years, 20 years, and you
Yeah.
haven't really solidified those things and really, because a lot of businesses will go through a program and they will figure out their vision. They'll get the mission statement, they'll name their values, but they stick them in a drawer somewhere. They don't ever revisit them. They don't
Right.
hire and fire from that. They don't search for clients from that. They don't build their goals off of that. And so I help companies do that. And when you have your vision clear, you have the mission, the goals, the values very clear, and you're working from them, then anytime a problem comes up, the problem is no longer a problem. It's a stepping stone to a solution to get closer to the vision. When you don't have those things clear, now you're stuck in the world of problems and you're just putting out fires all day long and you can't move forward. And that's when those conversations get ignored. When you know where you're going and you're clear in your values, it's much easier to have those conversations because you know what you don't want and you know what you do want to get to where you're going. So I love helping businesses figure that out because I love figuring that out for myself. It's been everything for me to build my integrity so that I can feel like I'm being my authentic self. And I think as a business, right, a business is just a group of individuals. So if the business is aligned in being authentic in what it wants to do, then the people there also will become aligned in that. The business is that thing, the leadership becomes that thing. So the people there also feel that. And so I think a business is a way for individuals to themselves learn that path to, as we're talking about today, authenticity.
Yeah. Best way for people to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me, leadimpacttransform.com is my website. You can schedule a discovery call with me there. And if you're on social media, Rob Z. Wentz, just look me up. I'd love to chat.
All right. I'll get some of that in the show notes. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, Frank, thank you, man. Great talking to you.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.